good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensie Owl Bob. This is my second show of the day. I was doing one on my laptop, and it died before I could end it safely, so I hope in a day or two it'll go up on my channel here. But I'm doing this one off my phone, and my phone also has its limitations. So this will be a short one, just to say I did one that was seemingly popular, about 40 people who were watching before it died, and I threw in a lot of stuff, and right now here it is, the 15th of March, and this is I have twice a year. My health is problematic, and and that would be the end of me. I died in 2014, and coming back from that, it took me 7 years to lose 250 pounds. And also, they wanted to cut my legs off, cut 20 feet of my large colon, and have me shit through a, colostomy bag, and crack my chest, and do a quadruple bypass. Well, I wouldn't let them do any of it. Plus, I was going blind, right? And I still have issues about all of it, right? But I was, had a life review. I died in a plate of spaghetti in a mobster restaurant in Miami, and I woke up on a gurney going into the operating room where they were going to do all this stuff. And I said, wait, what are you guys doing? And everyone freaked out because I had so much, fentanyl in me. That's the drug they use to knock you out so you don't wake up when they have your chest opened up, right? They don't want that. So I said, no. And the guy says, how can you be awake? You should be, we gave you enough to knock out an elephant, because I was almost as big. And so I said, no, put me back in the ICU. Let me speak to my lawyer. And so the lawyer showed up and I said, why did you do this? I said, well, they said that, if I let you get operated on, yeah, but you're not my lawyer. You're my client. That's totally unethical. You want me to do what you want me to do? I'll be fucking dead if they do that. And then you'll be totally screwed. But this is what you need. Get me into an ambulance. Take me down to your house in Florida Keys. I need a colonic person. I need acupuncturist. I need an endocrinologist. I need, I gave him a whole list. And he did. He got all his people. They started working on me. And in 2 weeks, I had lost about 30 pounds. I got my colon cleaned out, so it was working. And my endocrinology system had done a totally flip. I still had diabetes. I still had all the different issues I had, but I wasn't dead. Right, so they rolled me in a wheelchair with my 2 dogs, and I look like something out of one of those Wick movies. Anyway, John Wick, So anyway, here it is. That was 2014. Here it is 10 years later, right? So I walk around. I'm pretty. Everyone thinks I'm in great shape, which I'm compared to what I was. I'm in miraculous shape, right? And that's because I've changed my whole lifestyle. Because yes, my whole life since I was born, I was a slave to God's love, right? And that's why my life turned out the way it did. I got murdered by a nun in first grade. When I was 19, I was in a car that drove off a 2,500-foot cliff. And at the end of the bing, bang, smash, crash, I was sitting on the bottom of the desert floor I was sitting in the seat of a Ford Econoline, and I don't know if you know those. The bucket seat was welded to a box that was welded to the floor of the thing. And luckily, like this thing, the strap came out of the chair across my chest rather than from now. It's usually from up there. And so that's one reason why I survived. And I woke up sitting in this chair, and I was like sitting in a chair, on the floor of the desert in New Mexico. And there was nothing left of the Econoline, right? And I looked at my buddy who was it was his Econoline. He was nodding out, so you need to drive the last 10 miles. It won't be that bad. And going up the last hill, and before we went to his valley, basically, we started having an ice storm. And that road turned into ice like that, and we were pulling a gigantic military surplus ton and a half behind this Econoline, and we started to swerve, and we were using large aircraft cable to connect the gigantic truck to the Econoline. And I had been the whole way from where we got it. I was in the truck driving steering the wheel. And when he couldn't drive the Econo anymore, he wanted me. It's only 25 miles. You'll make it. Well, he didn't expect us to hit an ice storm, and and it swung us the weight of that truck. The truck went this way. The Econoline got ripped in half and shot off the cliff, right through the fence. Anyway, so that was, and I've been shot twice, and so I've died many times. I know what death is like. I've had 3. I had a heart attack, which, once they got me in the hospital, my father said such evil, mean things to me just because he was in his evil, mean mode, and I was in my weak mode, and I was tired, and I had driven them all the way to New Jersey so they could spend one time with my older sister's kids, and they treat, every time they do that, they would pull, it was like Lucy and poor Charlie Brown, they would pull the rug out from underneath my siblings' kids, right, and traumatize them more. Anyway, so I've been, and that's just my family, right? I've done a zillion other things. And I've shown you pictures and, told you stories, and you got enthralled with the old crone. And, I spent 3 or 4 different times with her, and I was her student, and she normally didn't have too many students. So I've had a really blessed life. I've been here. So right now, I can, my eyesight is so poor, the diabetes is affecting it so much that they're all red, and the floaters are like, so I am not, I look pretty good. I'm looking at myself. Yeah, I look pretty good for pushing 80. And I can walk around, and I can breathe, and I can actually walk up hills without having a heart attack. But when God wants me back, I'm right on a short string. And so I have no, I've done everything I wanted to do. So I'm here up in the deep green, and basically all I do is read the Bible, write my novels, go online and talk to you guys, and occasionally go out and about when I have the access to my friends' beaters, right? And I go shopping, but I always stop in one of my 12 places I stop at that have good Wi-Fi, and they know me, and they let me do pretty much what I want to say because they like me, because I give them readings, I give them insight. I'm there to make people happy, not to show off, not to be a lister, no. And so, John, well, if you have no money, how do you go to those restaurants all the time? Well, I don't eat a lot. I normally don't have a bill over $6. And, and that's the price of me being able to talk to you guys, right? So, and God wants me to do this, He keeps saying, don't worry, just keep telling the story. They don't even have to believe it. You're doing the shamanic thing you do. And I am. Every time before I do a show, I go into shamanic state and pray and talk to God. And again, when I say I talk to God, I'm not hearing voices, I'm not something biblical. But we all have a spirit, and we're all connected to love's co-creation, God, right? And we're all connected to Jesus's unconditional forgiveness. And if we serve those things in spirit, we then experience grace's faith. See, both of those things, grace and faith, we cannot manufacture them, by good deeds. You can't do this by good deeds, right? Because if you're doing it just by good deeds, you're seeing yourself as the numero uno dude, and you're doing it just for, like in the Catholic Church. They had these things called, forgivenesses. That's what going to. Hear the priest on Fridays to hear your confessions, right? And that was because they saw it as a shamanic magic that they could get a power by having you tell them your deepest, darkest secrets, and then they could A, hold it over you if you were important enough as blackmail, and B, use it in a magic ceremony to procreate power. And that's why they had all those wars, all that blood, all that suffering, and it's going on today. The same folk who did all that stuff, all the way back to magic, past, way back, right? We're talking about, hundreds of thousands of years. Humans have been doing this. We've had highly sophisticated civilizations, and, and they get, kind of buried and kind of hidden, right? If you go into the basement of, the Vatican, there's a lot of stuff there. You go in the basement of St. Patrick's, New York, a lot of stuff there. There are a lot of libraries. The library at Trinity in Ireland was part of Alexander the Great's library, right? He had them all over the place, right? So the information's there. If you're part of, if you have the spirit to know, to understand, and you do it in God's love co-creation, the doors open up, you get to see things, because you're not doing it to empower yourself. So the people who do it to empower themselves, some of them, like, you may not believe this, but Donald Trump, he is, I don't even know what to call him, but his Uncle John was one of the people who was always there in the technological sense. I mean, he was on, every secret, blue beam, Manhattan Project, and the Manhattan Project wasn't about the atomic bomb. That was just one of the projects. Manhattan Project was there because Nikola Tesla was in Manhattan, and he had turned all of eastern Long Island into one amazing, science fair. That's why Brookhaven National Laboratory is out there. Well, what reason would you put a national laboratory, out there on the end of Long Island? There's none. There's, the ones like in, Chicago, Fermi Labs, the ones in California, the ones Las Vegas, Nevada, Area 51. These are all because of their locations where they are. And that's why Brookhaven's right there, because of its location where it is. It's like Tesla, discovered the shamanic power of that island and turned it into his laboratory. That's why Warden Cliffs was built where it was, right on the North Shore, right in Shoreham, Long Island, where Long Island Mining Company, and not so much Long Island Mining Company, J.P. Morgan. So you have to realize all the high-end technology is basically controlled and owned by corporations, not by the governments. Governments, please, they're pathetic. Just look at ours. Look who's in charge of our government. Look at our Congress. It's just like right in front of our face. It's like, look at it. But you don't want to look at it, because then you'd have to feel responsible, right? Then you'd have to do something about it. That's what I'm doing, right? So, and I spent my whole life doing something about it. I always stood up and stepped in to help others, to protect the innocent. One of my 3 guardrails, what's going on my fingernails? Nothing. So, I haven't taken a shower in a year. You don't have to. When we were cavemen, we didn't have showers. I mean, now I love taking a shower. When I go to my friend's house, I take 3 or 4 a day, because I love, with the hot water hitting on your head, and you go, oh yeah, and a little on that shoulder, oh, a little on that shoulder. So I have serious, bone and muscle and tendon disabilities, right, from all the years of carrying all that weight and 50 years of, going up and down ladders, being an electrician, and all the other crazy stuff I did in a circus, you name it, I did it. Why? Because I had the opportunity to, and I enjoyed it. I learned very early in my life, when an opportunity comes your way, you don't worry about it, you just jump in, Like in Long Island, I had a real estate business. I was involved in the Stop Shoreham campaign. I had amazing girlfriend, and in my electric business, I had a lot of things going on, and I stumbled into a carnival. I was eating at a place where I normally eat breakfast on Sunrise Highway. Across the street, there was this big lot. It was, all this stuff, trucks and vans and all kinds of stuff. And there's an inspector I know, right? And I see him talking to some guy. Hey there, Jamie. And, I finished breakfast. I've got my coffee. I tell the waitress, hey, I'm going to come back to my table. I just give me a coffee to go. So I said, actually, give me 3 coffees to go. So I walk over there with a little thing holding 3 coffees. There's the inspector. Hey, Bob, have a coffee. Oh, thanks, Al. Hey, who are you? And Bob says, oh, that's the guy. This is a carnival owner, and he wants to he has a permit to put a carnival up here, but his main guy, who knows how to put all these rides together, he's dead. He just had a heart attack. He has no one to be responsible, no one who's licensed. I said, well, I have a license. You know me. I have a license. And he goes, yeah. And I said, how about I signed for it? And the guy goes, really? You don't even know this guy's name. You want to? I said, no, yeah. What? Why not? Right? I'll be responsible. What if we don't do it right? You're going to come back and inspect this thing before it opens. And I'm going to say, sorry, we couldn't get it together. No skin off my nose. But I don't want to see this guy and all these people shut out just because the one guy who's their linchpin died. And I can step in. I'm going to step in. So, the guy's drinking a coffee. And I said, why don't you go have breakfast? I'm going to talk to this guy a while. I'll go have breakfast. I want to talk to you about a few things. Because I've had other things going on that, I want to tell him what we were doing. So he goes over and the guy goes, who are you? And I said, I'm Al Bob. And I tell him what I'm doing. I said, I've been here about 3 or 4 years. I got a bunch of stuff going on. I work with this guy all the time. He knows my honesty, my forthrightness, and, what I do. I got about 6 commercial buildings in renovation, and I got some houses going up, and I'm involved in this other thing to stop the nuclear power plant, and, and I don't have to do anything today. I was having a breakfast in one of my favorite diners. Yeah, and why don't you come over and have breakfast, right? But let's first figure out what you need and what we're going to do. And he goes, well, I got 10 rides here. And I have all these roustabouts, and they put them together many a time, so they kind of know what it is, but they're really just roustabouts. They're not an engineer like my head ME was, and other things. So we kind of know what we're doing, but we don't have anyone of authority. You just stepped in. What do you want? I said, okay, when he opened this thing. And he goes, in a week. It'll take us a week to get everything up and running. And that's what we're advertising. Next Friday, not yesterday, but next Friday, we're going to open. And we'll be here 2 weeks, and then we're going to go to another place. I said, okay, good. I got time to help you out here, and it should be fun. And he goes, where do you live? I said, about 20, 30 miles. He goes, well, do you like camping? I said, yeah, I'm kind of a camper. He goes, well, how about you stay here, because we're going to need you here, not just, I said, okay. So he goes, how much you want? And I said, so what do you usually take? And he goes, well, you're not, this much. Oh, that much? How about I take 1% of that? He goes, great, $1,500, right? I said, sounds good to me. And that was 1 week, 1 week that was. So 15, so I said, we start out, so you got any money now? He goes, yeah, how much you need? I said, give me 5. So he gives me 500, and we go have breakfast, right? we have breakfast, and we smooth out the details with the county guy. And I say, I need you, Bob, you need to come by Wednesday. These guys want to open up on a Friday. So we should be able to get it pretty much together. I want you here Wednesday in the morning, if you can. And, you will say, yes, no, this needs to be fixed. And that gives us enough time to get it together. And then we'll go from there. And he goes, okay, no problem. So we have breakfast, we laugh, we clink our coffee cups. Bob leaves. This guy and I have breakfast. And we finish that. We walk over, and I start to walk through the job. What's their electrics? Where are they going to get it? Where's it have to go? And pretty much everything they had was on a gen, meaning they'd be there forever waiting for someone to put a meter in. So they brought their own shoes. So which cuts out a lot of issues with whatever municipality they're in, right? So the only thing that they really have to is that guy, health and safety, that no one's going to die, right? So anyway, so we go and we're seeing the roustabouts, and I said, so you got any kind of documentation on this stuff, And he goes, what do you mean? I said, owner's manuals, and he goes, well, we had the guys, he's got this little, his tool shed, his on wheels, a trailer, right? So we go there, we open it up, and we start pulling stuff out, and I go, so you get plywood, and we build a bunch of tables. We move everything out of the trailer and put it on tables so I can see it all. And we get a big, they have tents. We put a tent over the trailer and that's my office, right? I'll stay in this trailer. And, that's why I said I'll stay in that trailer. And so after we do that, and the guy, and we spend about an hour with the roustabouts, and we're looking at everything, and we get kind of set on who's going to do what, who knows what's going to be who's done it, who runs the rides, blah, blah, blah. So we get all that, and everyone goes away happy because they got this thing set in their mind. Well, good. There's no big obstacle. We can do this, right? And that's all. I was there. I was the cat who gave everyone that sense of confidence. Now they've done it for a zillion, I don't know, a zillion years, but they've been doing this for a long time. This is like a family, right? And so the guy says, we go back into the ME's trailer, and it was this shithole little thing that, nothing. But I'm sleeping in a place that's even worse than that trailer. But anyway, I was young and I was used to a better shithole than that. So anyway, I would sleep on jobs, no problem. I slept in abandoned buildings, no problem. Anyway, he goes, well, I think you're going to need another place to stay. And I said, okay, where am I going to stay? And so he brings me over to this trailer, very nice, big travel trailer, and it was actually an RV, a bus, right? And so knocks on the door, and I'm about 30. Let's see, what year was this? This was 86. So I'm about 36 years old, and so knock, knock, knock. It's really gorgeous, dark-skinned, gypsy woman comes out. She's really beautiful. She's something out of Game of Thrones. And so he introduces, and he goes to her. This is gonna be your new roommate, and she looks me up and down, and she goes, well, yeah, he'll do. I stopped by to say hi. So anyway, I spent the whole summer with those guys, right? And so I looked at her and I said, are you a Roma? Because she had this accent. And it wasn't like, Bulgarian or, that neck of the woods. It was more like almost Irish, right? But with this little, I said, you Roma? And she goes, what is that to you? I said, well, I've lived in Ireland a great deal, and I was on the west. I went to Trinity and studied Gaelic and Celtic law, and I was on the west coast with my mentor Archie. You mean Dr. Brown? I said, yep. She said, you know him? I said, yep. And she goes, and do you know? Yes. I said, I do know her. And she looks, you know the old crone? I said, yep. I was one of her students. You went to her mountain farm? I said, yep. Did you drink the third pot? I said, yep. And that was it. We were, sweeties. But I had this other girlfriend, right, in New York, big time, super duper brain, brilliant person. And, a great scholar in her own right. It wasn't Christine, who was the smartest human in the world, who invented computer graphics. Now, this was another woman who was a great historian and storyteller, and she had many PhDs, and she was at NYU. Anyway, so I said, so anyway, we came, I was there that whole week. The guy comes, it's all good. They start to show up. And I said, okay, guys, I got to go back to my other life. And so my roommate, she said, oh, my shtick, I got 2 days before my shtick, I have to get to business. But you're going to go. Where are you going to go? I said, New York and over here and over there. And she goes, can I come with you? I'd like a little break from this. I said, sure. So we did. And when we went, into New York, I had an abandoned building. I was living in the Supreme Court building in the South Bronx. I took her up there, and all the gangs and everything, the OGs, they were looking at her because she looked like, something out of Game of Thrones. I mean, she didn't put on a business suit, she still had her Game of Thrones look. And so we're walking through all this, and everyone in Harlem that, I knew in the South Bronx had a cultural representation, because the Roma are part of everybody's culture, if they know it or not. And so she was a big hit. And when we, the next day, my sweetie, she was all involved in something, and she was coming back from some kind of, and the whole week she was gone, so I didn't have to give her, I'm doing something. No. So we go to the airport, and I had this lady, dressed as Game of Thrones, and they hit it off like that. It was like I wasn't even there. These two girls were like, that's this, my scholarly girlfriend, that's everything she's studying. And this, my roommate, she is like what my girlfriend is studying. So these girls are like, wow. And they also they've always had an aesthetic interest in women. And so I became part of, we became, a three-piece sandwich, and I was the meat in the middle. And that happened to me often. So that whole summer was pretty freaking amazing, because everything was, God had put everything into an homeostasis. Everything was balanced. There was no problem. Everything went smoothly, because I kept saying, God, whatever you're doing, keep it up, buddy. I have no idea how the heck I got into all of this and what's going on, but everything worked out. And I kept getting my 1%. And everyone was happy, and the fact that I, knew Celtic songs and could sing bard tales, and I had this girlfriend who knew every language in the universe, and she just loved, because these people weren't all one flavor Roma; they were from all over the place. And so it was one of the best summers I ever had. So that's my life, and so here I am, most people who are in the physical shape I'm in, all they can do is complain, because I'm seeing doctors at least once a month, right? Because I'm smart enough to know, because the medical system is, I've been part of it, worked in it. My mom ran hospitals. It is at the worst state it's ever been. It's okay for really rich people, but it's really screwed for them because the U.S. of A. has the lowest. More people die of everything. We are on the bottom of the rich people scale, right? And we are in the lower bottom of the poor people scale. The only people who have any real kind of good magic medicine are guys like Elon Musk and those morons. But they have already sold their soul to the devil, and so they are another species. You have to realize they're demonic, So I've had this great life, not because I'm an A-lister, not because I'm a zillionaire. I've always had whatever money I needed, period. Right now, $400 a month is doing fine. And in those periods when I need, another $100 or another this, someone will give it to me. Like all the places I go have lunch in, 95% of the time, someone who who walks, who's eating there and they're at the table next to me, we strike up a conversation and I read their palms and give them some advice. They were like, and I don't say, by the way, can you buy me lunch? No, they will. So why we love you. So that's the story, and I'm seeing all of this horrible stuff around the world, and our media is like, it's war porn, and horror porn, and it's because these clowns are losing their edge. They can't control it anymore, and all through history, there's been this point where it switches, and usually the powers that be, the only way they can succeed is cause great chaos and famine and death to keep control. And that they're at a point, well, that ain't going to work this time. So you can see that, right? And Israel, poor Israel, because it's allowed, the poor, the 90% of the population of the Hebrew nation that's in Israel, that's come from all over the world, they've been sold a bill of goods. I mean, they don't really understand that they're being played. And so basically what's going to happen in the next, before the 4th of July, it's going to be catastrophic to the point where, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but there's probably 80% chance of this happening because really, militarily, I mean, all Israel is doing, all the IDF is doing is killing innocent folk. And they have gotten their population so spun up that you look at their TV and radio and their propaganda, everyone's singing, we don't care, kill them all, right? We'll be safe then. Well, they won't be safe then. I mean, they were just kind of getting to a point where all the other Arab nations, which are have no legitimacy, Saudi Arabia has no legitimacy, all the Emirates have no legitimacy. None of them have legitimacy, right? They were just made by the Balfour Agreement, and after World War II, they were the sleaziest bunch, right? So. So Israel has to basically go attack Hezbollah up there in Lebanon. But Lebanon can't, I mean, they have a serious military force, not like it was when Israel went in and didn't win. They were beaten to, stalemate, and so they had to leave. And so, Hezbollah won. And so they were, fortified. Now they have serious military power, right? Probably better than Israel. But the thing they don't have is an air force, but they do have a lot of missiles, and they have a lot of folks. So they're going to bring the war to Israel. And why did Israel take 70,000 people out of North Israel? Because that's where the war is going to go. Not in, not like last time where it went into Lebanon and they destroyed Lebanon, and that's why Lebanon is in such a mess. So, and who do you think detonated all that that fertilizer in the capital city of Lebanon. So uh, all these things are very obvious, right? But our media doesn't tell us because it's all propaganda, right? And how, like, our country is being going to be forced into civil war is that there is this higher hand, right? And so Donald Trump was, tuned up to be the Republican president, even though he was a Democrat his whole life, right? And so GE, the biggest military industrial contractor, basically hired Donald for 10 years to be a game show host, The Apprentice. And he was the apprentice to be president. So he got in there. You're fired. That's all he did. The first thing he did was he made sure that every person out of an insane asylum could legally get a gun without registration. That was the first thing he got through Congress, right? The next thing he got through Congress was a $20 trillion tax break for the very rich and corporations. The average large corporation was paying 35%. Now they're paying 8%. After all the givebacks and this and that and all the tax things, right? And so our $32 trillion tax deficit is largely from, Donald Trump. And the only person who, tells us the truth about what's going on is The Simpsons. And they tell it us meaning there was a episode in around 2011 where it's called Bart Back to the Future, right? And so Lisa becomes the first female president after Donald Trump has been in there and then raised the deficit up to $100 trillion, and he's destroyed the Constitution and caused the Civil War, and then been in power, for another, 6 times, right? He gets the Supreme Court saying that Donald Trump can be president as long as he wants to be. So, so Lisa gets in, and it's 2050. So, anyway, so it's amazing how, all our universities and all these experts and all these everything can't, come even close to, The Simpsons. They did shit on Elon Musk before he started SpaceX, and they showed him going to Mars, and Marge and Lisa were going to the first two to go to Mars because they were the smartest people. I mean, so the potential of what's going to happen by the 4th of July is that so the only reason Bibi is doing this is because he'd be in jail if he wasn't doing this, right? So, and the people of Israel are so mind controlled that they're like kill everyone. We want to be safe. So what's going to happen is, the IDF said, okay, by the 10th of March. If we haven't got all our guys up and everyone's given in and we have defeated Hamas, we're going to take out Rafah. And there's like 1.3 million people there. So the potential, if they go into Rafah, like they went into northern and central Palestine, they could kill easily 1 million people. And they're starving them to death, and there's disease there. So it's a trifecta, right? And so if they start doing that, right, well, basically the only thing they can also do to protect them from everyone else is that they go after Hezbollah, right? So they've already moved the people out, and so they will, do a large bombing of Lebanon. And that's when... so Hezbollah will not start the fight. They have to wait till Israel attacks them in a, the same way they attacked the Gaza Strip. And so, but the thing that Hezbollah has is 70,000 well-trained, well-armed, and a tactic, and they have all these tunnels. that can go straight into North Israel and take it, period, right? And then set up a defense line and then keep going towards, from the river to the sea, right? And Israel can't do anything about it because they've already depleted probably 3/4 of their everything. So you will have Israel on its knees, right? And Israel will nuke Lebanon and kill 1 million Lebanese, and they will nuke Rafah and kill, 1 million plus in Rafah, and they will nuke Iran. Now, Iran can't nuke them, but they can definitely give everybody around them lots of stuff to go after Israel. And so Israel will be on its knees by the 4th of July. And, the people who have been, and they will probably themselves lose 250,000 to 1 million people because they're not prepared to, our Iron Dome, that's their whole thing is their hubris, Well, they only have so many of those interceptors, and Hezbollah probably has, for every one interceptor Iron Dome has, Hezbollah probably has 4 missiles. And like the Shiraka move, right? That costs maybe $400. And every one of those missiles that shoots the $400 missile down costs, somewhere between $200,000 and $1 million. So for every missile they shoot down, Israel's losing a lot of money, and they only have a limited amount of missiles that they can, use as interceptors until they're out, right? And so that's when Israel will use its best of the best missiles they have that have really devastating, they don't have nuclear weapons, but they have devastating accurate and ammunition. So they will take out those cities, their port city and their capital city, right? They'll take those out, and a few other, the more where the Silicon Valley city is. I mean, they will just, and they'll do it unbelievably without a blink of an eye, right? And so everyone in Israel will know that the IDF, Mossad, and their government has led them down the path, right? And so what's going to happen is Hezbollah will be moving south from North Israel, and Israel won't be able to stop them. And Hamas is not being deterred as a military force, so they're going to come into the south of Israel, right? And they're going to be pissed off. And so right when that is what it is, right, Russia has been working with Hezbollah and Hamas and all the Palestinians to create a new state that isn't Hamas and isn't PLO and isn't Hezbollah, but it's the, Palestinian state that has legitimacy. And Russia will support it. And what Russia's going to do right at that time, right around the 4th of July, they will say, okay, we are not firing another shell in the Ukraine. We are not blowing up anything else in Ukraine. We are going to stop, right? We're right here. We got this nice line. We can protect ourselves. We will move our anti-aircraft barrages closer. So whatever, we're not going to fire anything. Ukraine starts shooting at us. We're just going to shoot the stuff down. We're not going to go after them, right? We are going to say, okay, let's go. We're at a point where we think we can sit down at the table and negotiate something. Plus, we are going to sponsor a similar thing in Israel and Lebanon and the Strip and Iran. And they will, and all of those guys will say, we will stop. And in that time, just before, Russia will move its best interceptors into Hamas, into the Gaza Strip, into Lebanon, and also into the Golan Heights and into where all the illegal Jewish settlers are, right? And then Hezbollah will be, in that time when they came, south into northern Israel, they're going to be going into that place where all the illegal settlers are and go after them big frigging time, right? And say, they'll go, but you're going after innocent. I said, yeah, those guys are innocent. They've killed over 5,000 Palestinians since October 7th. They're innocent. This is how this is going to roll out. And at a certain point, Israel will going to have to say, uncle, because they're going to just be rolled over. And that's when, they will keep airports in the capital, in major cities. They won't touch them. And they will say, we're going to send, internet. We have rented international aircraft, airliners from Switzerland, the most we don't have a stick in the fight. And they are going to take every Israel person that wants to leave Israel to Switzerland and then put them up and let them decide where they want to go, because all those people that are in Israel all have families in countries all over the world, America, England, Ireland, you name it. They're Jewish folk everywhere. And those people will go back to their families that are in those countries, right? When they're like this, right? And they will sing the song. If you go to the Bible, I've been reading the Bible a lot. That's where I'm getting a lot of this from. The song, I forget what it's called, but there's a whole section. It's not the 7 songs, it's something songs, where it's just real poetry. The Bible is mostly poetry and verse and not prose. The thing of the comic book at the end of the King James, that's prose. But it's most of all the Old Testament is song, because look, the Torah is still sung by a cantor, right? So anyway, the Jews are going to go back and sing the song of this and of their sorrow. And that the only way they can make up for this is they have to heal themselves by, going to everyone they see. They will have to go to them and ask forgiveness. They're at the supermarket, at Walmart, whatever, gas station, whatever. They're going to have to sing the song of forgiveness. And once that starts being sung, we might have world peace. And so that's what I see coming, right? It's going to be nasty between now and then. And we have to give all our brothers and sisters, our Islamic brothers and sisters, our prayers, right? And our Jewish brothers and sisters' prayers, and everybody else. Our Christian brothers and sisters have to be prayed for so they can step up to what they say they are. I would love to see the born-agains really be what they say they are. They're not, I'd love to see Christians like Muslims. Every Muslim prays 5 times a day. How many Christians do that? I mean, seriously, where they take the prayer cloth and lie prostrate in front of God, pointing him towards Mecca. I'd love to see Christians do that, to, do what not do what I do, because I'm just a chucklehead, I'm not perfect. I don't even come close to, but I do my best. That's what I do. That's the one thing I do is my best. I fail most of the times, but I do my best, because when I fail, I go, oh, look at that. I fail. Oh, I'm okay. Let's see. So that's, what do you think I'm writing about in my novels? About all my failures. And John Boy, if what the YouTube I put up earlier today, if that comes up, John kind of was at the end of it, right? He called up and he was going, oh, why'd you come back? And we do okay. I said, John, no. The only way I will come back to see you, period. 2 things, right? Because I don't do the same thing. I did everything I could for you, and then you just kept doing it the same way, right? So this is the only way I'm coming back. I'll still be your buddy, still say I care about you, and still want you to be the best. I will only come there if, like this, I said this summer, have your boys come to the school in May. And in May, all of my medical things, doctors, procedures, all that stuff will be done for another 6 months, right? So I said, I will come to the school if your boys come to you. And then I can be there to be the emissary between the two of you and work on you guys getting to be your best, right? That's number one. Number two, I will come and you get a car and we will drive to Texas and stay in Texas where your family is and not run away like after 3 days or get put in a mental institution or jail. No, I'm going to be there by your side to be your intercessor. So when somebody with a butterfly net comes to get you or the cops come to get, I said, boys, listen, no. He's here to work at, becoming a real human being, and I'm here to be his emissary, his sensei, his golem, right? So you and I, we can work out whatever it is. You don't have to put him in handcuffs. You don't have to take him to the hoose guy. You don't have to put him in the rubber room because he's none of all the above, right? And you give me your cards right here. Okay, take all your cards. Anything comes up, I'll call you before it gets, so you can show up and we can. And by you doing that, officer, you can learn something. And the thing you need to learn, officer, and I tell this to police all the time, do not let the uniform define you. You define the uniform. And they all start to cry when I tell them that. So that's how it looks to me. But right now, every day has been beautiful. I mean, we were supposed to have some really nasty weather. It just kind of spritzed a little bit. And it was sunny a little bit, but it wasn't just over there, they had, heading towards Virginia and down along the coast. They had some nasty weather, and it's still going. It's like heading up towards New York and then into Canada. But that bowling alley has been going on now since New Year's, basically. So anyway, that's the story. What time is it? Yeah, I need to go. It's getting towards how much juice do I have? I can't let this one die too. Hopefully, my other show that the battery and so the show ended stuck live for about 20 minutes. Usually, it takes a day or two for YouTube to and put it up. So that's why I'm doing this one, to give you a little heads up of what the show is about. But I had a lot of other interesting stuff, and if that show doesn't make it, I'll try it over again. Okay, so I love you guys. Have a good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Remember, it's me, and don't believe a word I say. I'm just here to tell you a story.